Welcome to the Disability Myth, the podcast where we explore the realities of disability with handsomeness, humility, and hamminess. My name's Dominic, and I was born with a fatal neuromuscular condition called spinal muscular atrophy. My co-host, Uriel, and I tackle serious issues, but we don't take ourselves too seriously.
SMA and boats. How did that go?
SMA and boats?
Yeah.
I mean, you think about it, boats are just not as wheelchairs. We're here to share stories, break down barriers, and remind everyone that we're not so different. So hit subscribe and let's shed light on some myths. Warning: this episode includes a brief mention of suicidal ideation. Please take care while listening and feel free to skip this episode if needed. If you or someone you know is struggling, help is available. In the U.S., call or text 988 for the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline.
Hello.
Hi. Well, hello there, and welcome back to another season of the Disability Myth. Yeah. With? You excited?
Yeah, with
Yeah?
with
You have the honors.
with Dominic Trevathan. Hi.
And me, Uriel Ruelas,
Wait a minute.
your handsome, humble, and hammy hosts. And today we have a very new friend on the show, one who I kind of made through editing on the radio program Pushing Limits. Her name is Theresa Rogers, and she lives with a multitude of disabilities or conditions. They include Epstein-Barr Virus, chronic fatigue syndrome,
And motherfucker gene mutation.
Yes, that's right. Oh, you heard that?
Well, okay. When we were going over the outline, I told Dom, "What is this? The motherfucker gene mut? What is this?" And like he told me that that's what you call it. I'm like,
Yep.
"Oh, is this an abbreviation? What does this mean?"
But it's not. It just should be called the motherfucker gene because it fucks with everything in your body.
Oh,
Okay, and so before people get too confused, the actual name of the gene mutation is called MTHFR. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
it's like a perfect abbreviation for me.
Right?
I'm sorry.
It gave its own fault. It set itself up for that.
Yeah.
And there's two different variations of MTHFR mutation. One is C677 or 677T, which is what I have, and then the other one is A something.
Yeah, we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I only care about the one I have.
Exactly. And I have two
speaking-
copies of that gene, so
Speaking of Harry Potter, the gene that shall not be named.
exactly.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, we got lots in store for everyone today. We're talking about Harry Potter fanfics. We're talking about gene mutations. We're getting hog wild today. Season 4 is off to a great start.
I don't like your choice of words.
What?
Hog wild, because you know what's coming up.
Uh-oh. I don't know what's coming up.
He's gonna give me crap for a word change that's coming up in this question.
I mean, okay, icebreakers right off the bat, fan favorite. Uriel, take it away.
Dude, I used to start off with like a wizard at gunpoint, but then I realized that affects the way people answer the question. It's just like, oh, I want to be a barbed wire hot dog.
Oh.
And then I took the wizard part out of it.
Oh.
You're going to be turned into a hot dog. You get to pick your bun and wiener meat. Shut up. Condiments and toppings.
Yeah. Well, now that somebody had said razor wire, so do I be political here? Do I be writerly here? That's a very good question. Now I don't know how to answer this. I mean, there's one. Oh God, no, I'm not going to go political. It's just too much.
Some people get nostalgic, like, I want to be a Coney Island hot dog.
Oh,
Like my childhood.
I've never had one of those. I don't know even what that tastes like. Well, I would definitely have to have a gluten-free bun because one of the things that MTHFR has gifted me is a newfound, well, 10 or 15 years ago, inability to eat wheat. So the bun would definitely have to be gluten-free. And that's like the holy grail because they only offer gluten-free buns in the stores, like from July 1st to July 1st when they close. So it's really hard to like find them. In terms of meat, what wiener I want? I want the wiener that I ate before I knew what hot dogs were made of.
Oh, before the nitrates. Well, they're always there, but before you knew what it was.
Before I knew what meat was in it, before I knew all the extra stuff that was in it, when I still thought it was just like a hot dog. That's the hot dog I want. That's the hot dog I want.
Could say the same about chicken nuggets from McDonald's.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. I want the innocent hot dog.
Yeah.
It shattered my heart because like they're shaped like dinosaurs and so innocent.
Right? Oh my God. And in terms of toppings, well, my innocent hot dog, I loved to have ketchup on it, and that was it, because it was like the perfect sort of sweet balance to like the salty hot dog and then sort of the neutral bun. So I'm going full innocence hot dog here.
Oh,
Innocence
I
dog.
like it.
Innocence dog.
Nice. Okay, well, I will follow that question up with a very less exciting question.
No, this is just as exciting. I wanted to ask this question so bad.
Well,
No. Like it's like I wanted to see how a writer would respond to like such a question like this. Let me take it away.
yeah, that's a good point. I don't know if we like formally said that Teresa here is a very accomplished writer in the intro. That seems important to mention. So there's that. And yeah, so our question is, if you had a time machine, would you choose to go back in time or go into the future?
God, I've thought about this so much.
Told you.
It's so hard. I'm so predictable. It's really hard to decide because on the one hand, I would love to go forward in future to make sure that my son is okay, like to just check in and help him out if he needs help, if I'm like dead or something. Now on the other hand, there are certain time periods in history that I've always wanted to visit. Like medieval England or Renaissance Italy or stuff like that. Like I would just really like to know what it was like to, and not like the rich people, whatever, we know enough about them. They have all the glory. But just like, what was it like to be a normal person? Celtic England, before the Roman invasion. What was that like? Who was there? What was it like to be 10,000 years ago to be human? Like what kind of experience did you have whether it be here, Native Americans here or, people in Europe or people in Africa or whatever, like what kind of communication was possible? What sort of like how often did you meet people? Did you ever meet people? I mean, there's like not many people on the earth at that point,
Not to mention like the lack of communication methods. Yeah.
Yes. I would also, and this is funny because this sort of gives a hint into my fascination with natural disaster. Would love to go back to the year 536. Do you guys know what 536 is?
Hold up. Pompeii.
No, that's 79 AD.
Dude, not even
Close.
close.
Do you know what 536 is?
I don't.
Jesus Christ. No, that's the first one. That'd be the first. Yeah,
That's when he came back?
maybe.
This is 536 AD. It was one of the biggest volcanic explosions in history, and it literally they call it the worst time to be alive. Like the next 3 years, so many people died, and the crops failed, and just it was like a complete and utter shutout of like the sun and stuff like that. What was that like? What was happening then? How do you deal? They didn't know, like, except for the people who were near the volcano. Well, they were probably dead. How do you, like, they didn't know what happened. Suddenly the sky went black. I mean, wouldn't you think it was the end of the world?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like a lot of anthropological like questions, because I was taking anthropology courses and like, that's kind of like what we talk about, but it's kind of like boring, not like all speculation, just kind of based off of research and information that this is, it's like they may have done this. It's a lot of that, a lot of
A lot of
I want to go
speculation.
back there. I'm like, well, what
Yeah.
did they do? Can't you just
Right.
tell me? Or like, they found all those little spherical, like they're made up of like octagons or something. They have little sticky out.
Oh, it's like the Scottish Welsh like balls. Like,
Yes. What the hell
yeah.
are those? I want to go back and ask them, what the
So
hell is this? And they're
I was looking at an article or like a master program recipient's dissertation or whatever, and he thinks that those balls, they're so uniform in the way they're shaped,
yes.
they may have been used as a ancient style of ball bearing.
Hmm.
Like they would use like wood.
Interesting.
How do you word it? Like a wood
Wood.
channel?
So, shoot, like a shoot?
Like yeah, like a wood chute. And then they would put these in there, and then they would just like put heavy stuff over it. But it's kind of like it's just a theory. It
Wouldn't
in
round
practice it
your
works.
as
In
opposed to,
practice it does work.
oh, really?
Yeah. So, but
Because
everyone's
that's,
like kind of skeptical because it's like, oh, we don't really, maybe, I don't know, you
well, because
know.
nobody knows. So just
Yeah.
send me back. I'll spend like an hour. I'll find one of these people. I'll be like, what the hell is this? Okay, thank you. I'll come back and I'll be like, this is what it is. So that's kind of my
Nice.
deal. I would also love, do you know what the Toba explosion was? Toba?
No.
They were so stupid.
You're not. Natural disaster girl. I lived in Washington State when Mount St. Helens exploded on May 18th, 1980. And we got to school a month early because nobody knew there was ash everywhere. You just couldn't go anywhere. So that, I know, it's
That's
like,
cool. Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know if that's what started my fascination with natural disasters, but man,
The lore.
Well,
good
I mean,
natural disaster.
I think when they happen, everybody's super interested in them. I feel like people kind of lie and pretend like they're not interested in it
Right?
because it's like an inherently human thing to be terrified of stuff.
Oh man.
And like back, like especially like here in California, people yeah, it's an earthquake, yeah, whatever. But like whenever earthquakes happen, like elsewhere, in like the East Coast and places where they're not used to it, like oh my God, what is that?
Yeah.
You know,
Totally.
everybody speculates and everybody goes full like do 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 do, you know, and it's like really funny to like see it.
Totally. Well, we just had the earthquake and the tsunami warning here. Tsunami warning?
Yeah.
We're
Yeah,
not in the tsunami zone, but in the map we were in it. And I'm like, is this like way worse than we thought? What the hell? Should I be rounding the cats?
yeah.
Okay, so Toba explosion happened in 74,000 years ago. It left behind a lake that is, the crater is like 20 miles wide and 70 miles long, 70 miles long. And it caused, the latest theory is that, not the latest theory, but the theory is that that's what caused the huge bottleneck that most humans died out and that we got down to like 15,000 people on the planet.
Oh wow.
Oh yeah. I was talking to Dom about this. Like we're all inbred.
Right?
And you know, it's like
It's
super
crazy.
funny.
All our
Hear the Alabama
mitochondrial
music.
DNA, yeah, all our mitochondrial DNA goes back to one woman.
Yeah, because it's traced through like the mother side.
Yep.
So like when I tell all the gym bros, your physicality, your like athleticism, like your ability to like do sports is based off of your mom's mitochondria because it is the powerhouse of the cell.
That's
And
exactly.
the way your mitochondria like duplicate and like whatever, that's like from your mom's side.
Okay, hold on. We're kind of smart. We're cooking. Hold on
Huh?
now.
No, me? No, I'm all right. I'm like
We're
a
cooking.
generalist. I'm a generalist, master of none.
Oh God, that's me. You're just picking on my subjects that I know about. And also, last but not least, if I had a time machine, I would like to go back and I would love to see one of the glacial Lake Missoula mega floods.
That sounds cool as hell.
See, it's like I'm gonna say it.
Say it.
When we were doing the outline originally, you wanted to replace that question with something else. I'm like, no, we can't. I need to know what she would do if a time machine, please. I was begging him.
It's because we were like, doing our due diligence and stalking your website,
Yeah,
as all good podcasters do with their guests.
Of course.
And we found ourselves with a plethora
a rabbit hole.
of questions that we could ask. And I was like, I don't know, man. It's fitting this into about an hour is gonna be difficult. We may need
Oh,
to like pick and choose here.
I know. I'm already like, we're gonna go so far over an
Yeah,
hour.
yeah, definitely.
And you were looking at the time machine question, like, no, we can't. No,
We
like
don't
no,
have
that
time.
one's important. No, it's important to me.
Okay,
Oh,
speaking of time, if you
yes.
could go back and give a piece of advice to your younger self, what would it be?
This one was really hard too. You know what? Honestly, I would tell myself, you've got MTHFR, and that's what's wrong with you. And so all this shit that you're going through, if you just got the brain candy right now, your life would be like so infinitely much better. I would
Mm,
tell myself what I didn't know until I was in my 40s.
and so you, by just to clarify, by brain candy, you mean like what medication?
Yeah, sorry. No, SSRIs and S.
Oh, I thought you meant like information, like knowledge. It's like, oh yeah, brain candy.
Alex. No,
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, what contextually makes the most sense here?
No, I think you know
sorry.
it.
Oh God, I didn't even think about that. Yes, stuff that helps your brain chemistry even out. Because that I had a rough go of it until I figured out what this MTHFR stuff was, and
Hmm.
my literally changed my life. Literally changed my life. So that's what I
Probably
would tell myself. Just
one of like the more like honest answers that we've gotten. A lot of people are I don't know, kind of like random. So it's like, nah, go back. Like you're sick. I'm like, oh, like oh, okay.
It's
everything
such a
makes
real,
sense.
it's such a realistic answer too. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it,
I'm young and dumb. I'd probably go back in time and like I don't know, man, something stupid. Yeah, insert something
Go to
stupid.
more parties, drink more beer. It's like, no,
No, see, I'm
you,
blackout like that. Like they're no, I'm a bitch. Like they're no.
Uriel's like the exact opposite of that, like life of the party, quote unquote. But he makes up for it in personality.
excellent,
Unfortunately.
excellent. I would totally agree. You two are delightful.
Thank you.
We found this on your website. What is a fiber artist?
Do I have any fiber art right here? I think I do.
Oh, live
Live fiber.
in
Oh,
4K?
Hold on.
we're recording in 4K.
4K?
You're
Oh,
crazy.
I mean,
This is like 1080 at most.
I know it's
720.
720 probably.
360. We're all pixelated.
We're in Minecraft graphics right now.
240.
This is fiber art.
Oh wow, that's so pretty.
Thank you. Oh,
Whoa.
hold on. There's the front. So this is fiber art.
Okay. Is
And
it like a sub-discipline of crochet?
yeah, this is actually crochet. I do a
Yeah,
lot of different fiber art, but I'm just showing you crochet right now because that's what I could grab really quick. This is fiber art.
Oh yeah, how should we
Oh.
describe for those that can't see right now or can't watch the video?
Wow, that's a good question. Color explosions, usually
Yeah.
in strange shapes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
I like the second piece, the green and like the brown. It's like some cool
Thank
patterns.
you.
Yeah.
Yes.
How'd
That's
you
a
get into that? That's really cool.
Oh yeah. My mom taught me to knit a long, long, long time ago. I also do weaving. I do a bunch of different fiber arts. And then the thing with knitting is if you drop one stitch, you're fucked because it just goes all the way down. And then like, how do you get it back up there? And then if you have to like ripping things out is called frogging. So if you have to frog down to somewhere, how do you get the loops back on in the right? And I was like, I just need like one loop. And if I drop a stitch, it's just one stitch. So that's
Isn't the first loop or the first thing the most important part? Because that's the base of what everything else is going to be built around.
yeah,
Or am I
yeah.
thinking of felting? Or I don't know what I'm thinking about. Something.
You're thinking about all
Crochet.
art. All art is
Oh.
that the case.
Oh.
Art
That's
in general is.
oh,
Now no one will start art. Oh my God, the first step is the most important. No, none of my pieces ever turn out the way I originally envisioned them.
I feel like that's again like a universality of art, right?
Yep. Yeah, it should be. No, you'd be surprised how many people feel wedded, locked into their original vision.
Mm-hmm.
to sometimes the detriment of their art, but definitely to the detriment of their mental health. Sometimes you want to make the decision not to vary, and sometimes you have to make the decision to vary. And I think the only rule of art would be, don't kill your soul.
Yeah, that's what somebody told me. I've done everything. It was an acting coach or an acting teacher. And he said, when it comes to art, there's going to be this little feeling inside of you that's kind of telling you what the right thing is. And you
Yes.
have to do that and you have to make the bold decision.
Yes.
Like if you're in rehearsal and it's just like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if I did this or I did that? And you can't deny that. And you just have to make the bold decision like, oh, I'm gonna blow my nose right now before I speak my line. Why? Because I don't know. I think it'd be funny
Yeah.
Yeah.
or interesting.
But here's the deal, and here's the real secret to that, is that you cannot, you were talking about that little voice inside of you that says like, you should do this. That voice is craft. And the more you study your craft, the more you know whether those suggestions are viable or just ego.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, like live and learn, you got to practice it.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to, because like I'm a writer, right? I have studied that I'll use a word you don't have to bleep out. I've studied the heck.
Don't
out of
worry,
my
we don't
craft.
bleep here.
Oh, yay!
Yeah,
Yeah, well,
I just put explicit on the episode.
yeah.
Outstanding.
And it makes us feel like hard rap artists.
Yeah.
Explicit.
Right? I love it. I love it. I've studied like scene structure. I've studied plot structure. I've studied character arc and plot arc, and just scene and structure, scene and sequel, which is a totally different thing. But like I've studied every aspect of craft, how to create a character, why you choose, like when you choose characters for a book, like I hate it when people are like, these characters just talk to me. They wanted to tell their story. And I'm like, because when you're, and again, there's no wrong way. It's fine. Cool. Go ahead and do that. And God bless you, because you will have to edit your book 7,000 times. But like when I'm putting my book together, but like I'm writing on a book right now, and the way I put it together was, here are my two main characters. Here are their problems. What kind of characters do I need to both mirror and push against their problems, to push them to a point of change? So I'm not looking at, this guy should have a brother. I'm thinking like, does he need a brother so I can bring in backstory in a way that's more, or that's like, whatever? Or do I need it? What I need is somebody to meet this person for the first time, because then we can get backstory. And like, I'm thinking about it like that. That's craft.
Oh, okay.
So if I'm having those little voices, like I said, like, oh, you should do this, you got to know the craft so that you know whether or not that's productive.
I feel like this is a free masterclass that we're being.
Oh, I know, right? Oh God.
I'm trying not to use super technical writing terms, but oh my God, I could, let me tell you.
Oh no, it's good. I'm eating, as they say.
Right?
I'm consuming.
Excellent. I don't even know what we're talking about. What the hell are we talking about?
The ripple effect on libraries.
Yeah, speaking of books.
The ripple
Right.
effect on libraries.
Yeah, we did see that you have a couple of books up on your website that we wanted to ask about.
Yeah.
The first one was the ripple effect and that was about libraries after Katrina, right?
Yep. That was a super cool project. That came along my way. I don't even remember how that came along my way. But like when I was a kid, and it says this on my website, so I'm sort of repeating if you've read that. But when I was a kid, again, I would go back and tell myself, this is why you're having a hard time. I had a really hard time for decades. And part of it was because I didn't have the right brain chemistry. So I was constantly blackly depressed, like just black depression. And it doesn't mean that I wasn't funny or fun or whatever, but that was like the outside me. And then there was the inside me. And up until ninth grade, I wasn't really very social. I didn't know how to win in that world. So I spent a lot of time alone. And my salvation was libraries, because I could go and read, and it was expected that you were going to be quiet and by yourself. And it was really a safe haven for me. Librarians are freaking awesome people. you can tell them like, I want to read this. And they're like, here's 70,000 books that you could read about this, you know? So when I heard, and I hadn't even thought about the impact on libraries after Katrina, but I was just so like taken by what had happened down there. And when they said that like like a ton of the libraries are destroyed, I was like, oh, no, no, no. Because not only that, because anybody who can't afford to buy books or like wants to do research but can't, like, you know, that you go to the library. It's like the ultimate level playing field kind of thing, you know? So I just was super excited about that project. So they had a bunch of different prompts from different, you know, whatever. And so I wrote those two, I would call them flash fiction because they're really, really short. And I submitted them and I'm like, and they took both of them. And not only that, but both of them got illustrated. Like somebody read my work and like put illustrations. And I was like, oh my God, I cannot tell you how much your heart explodes the first time you see someone's interpretation of what you wrote. It is a beautiful moment. It's really incredible. And so I'm really proud to have supported that project in that way. Yeah.
That's so cool.
It is. Well, yeah. Well, yeah. Because the leveling field aspect, I never really thought about it because like we often forget that a
Yeah.
couple decades ago, not everybody had internet.
Yeah.
Like that was me. I'd have to go to the library to print
Yep.
stuff.
Yep.
And
Yep.
in some areas, communities, that may still be the case,
Yeah.
which is why
Absolutely.
it's very important to keep these public services around.
Yeah, well, so to me it was like it was a safe haven for anybody who needed that, which I think is vitally important in our
Yeah.
culture. And it's also the place where you can learn about anything you want. And you don't have to, there's no like price for admission. It's kind of like that's why I like Khan Academy too online.
Khan Academy. Yeah, I
Mhm.
cut my teeth on that in high school.
Yep, yep,
What?
yep, yep.
Yeah, I did.
What?
Yeah, I did cut
Cut.
my teeth. Yeah, bro.
What is it?
Highest score.
Cut your
So,
teeth.
but
Yeah, I
so
did.
that was an anthology. Ripple Effect was an anthology. And so, you know, there's a bunch of other people in it too. So, but that just that project had a really warm place in my heart.
That's cool.
Oh, then I was thinking about this book on my way here because I was eating microwavable Trader Joe's butter chicken.
Shameless plug.
Huh? It's is it good for me? Arguably not. Is it great in a pinch? Yeah.
Yep.
I love nuclear food. But what can you tell us about I'm gonna butcher this. Is it Dama?
Dharma.
Dharma.
Dharma Feast Cookbook.
I
Dharma.
didn't see the R, dude. My eyes are
Oh
closed.
yeah, no. Dharma is the word that Buddhists use to talk about like the teaching. Like what did Buddha say? What is, you know, the modern like, you know, take on it? What have people written about that? It's like kind of like talking about like if you watch The Mandalorian, this is the way.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So Dharma is kind of like that. It's like the body of teaching that exists in Buddhism, and you can use it like, you know, anywhere else too if you're like an omnivore like I am, in terms of sacred traditions. Not culturally appropriated, please don't come at me. Dharma Feast came from a single moment in my life. I had just had my son. He had just started eating solid food. He was probably about 7, 8 months old. I was rushing about as young moms do with too many things to do and not enough time. So I went through In-N-Out, got a burger. This is when I could still eat wheat. So I got a burger and fries and whatever. And so I got home and I put all my stuff on the counter and I was holding my son and I went to go take a bite of the hamburger or the cheeseburger. And I looked down and he went like this. And I went, son of a bitch. Oh my fucking God. I am teaching him how to eat. I would never let him eat what I'm about to put in my mouth. Never. So I had to relearn how to cook. And I had to I had to learn for the first time, really, tons of nutrition stuff because I wanted to make sure that his little body had what it needed, and I didn't know how to do that. I realized so many things in that split second. It was like one of those moments when you're like, my life is going here, then suddenly my life is going over here. It's very intense. So that's when the project started. I just started collecting recipes from friends, because I have a lot of friends who are just incredible cooks. I'm like, tell me how to make that. So I had this stack of recipes, and another woman saw that and she's like, oh my God, like, what's that? I'm like, I have all these recipes, and they were all vegetarian, and they were all like, nutritionally, whatever. And she's like, we're turning that into a book. I want you to write a bunch of essays and blah, blah, blah. And that was really the birth of that. The birth of that was, I need to know how to train this human to take care of their body. And it ended up being me learning how to take care of my body. And it was also like, in the book also, there's a big emphasis on using food to create community.
Oh.
And like not only eating food together, but how do you choose the food that you go and buy? How do you prepare the food that you're going to make for people? How do you cook it? How do you present it on the table if you're thinking about that? How do you make sure that everybody has what they need at the table, so that nobody has to get up and run back and forth? I mean, there's an entire art to creating an amazing community experience around food. And I actually had an experience of that in India, I wrote about that in the cookbook. We were in this tiny village in the middle of freaking nowhere. They don't have electricity, they don't have whatever. And they had made us this meal. And I had like connected somehow with this 80-year-old woman that was there, or maybe she was 90, maybe she was over 100. I don't know. She was like super like elder.
Mhm.
I couldn't speak her language. She couldn't speak mine. It was all like sign language. But I was eating what the meal that they had prepared for us, and she came up to me and she just went like this. And she pointed at the food. And I just burst into tears.
And so just for those that didn't watch that right now,
Oh
she
shit.
just kind of made a gesture.
I patted my heart and put my hands straight out, and that's what she did towards the food that I was eating. And I literally just burst into tears. And I'm like, this is one of the most beautiful moments I've ever experienced. And it's all around food. So I sort of talk a lot about how to create that kind of space. It's all about having intention. When you pick the food you're going to make, you're using intention. When you prepare the ingredients, you're using intention. The way you set the table is intention. All of that is intention and attention. So there's a lot about that in the book as well.
That's pretty cool.
But yeah, just the fact that you had that moment of epiphany, and actually acted on it instead of like Uriel said, ignoring it. Yeah, that's really cool.
Which is an important skill that I think most people forget they can do.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You start going so quickly that you miss those moments. You just you don't slow down enough. You're like, oh, something just happened. That was really impactful. And then my joke is like, somebody's like, oh my God, I had this moment of enlightenment. I'm like, who fucking cares? People have moments of enlightenment all the time. What matters is, are you going to integrate that into your life? Are you actually going to make a change in your life to make sure that to keep that go? Like, that's kind of the way I look at that. I'm not like, oh, I'm so great. But like, that's how I look at that moment. Like, I had an epiphany. Who fucking cares? What I did with it is I wrote a cookbook and did all that research, and like that. That's the important part.
Yeah.
Obviously,
we're 30 minutes in roughly now, and if you can't tell by now, Teresa's just really fucking cool.
Yeah.
And no other words need be said. But as we have kind of touched on, she lives with a multitude of conditions. And my next question, after getting to know you more, how do each of these conditions kind of affect you? And I know that's a really broad kind of question, because I'm sure they all do different things.
It is and it isn't, and I'll explain why, but go ahead and finish your question.
Yeah, no, just I don't know if there's a quick and easy way, or like, yeah, if they all do different things, how it impacts you, how they each impact you individually. How would you say it?
Yeah. So, first of all, the MTHFR mutation is the reason all of those it's the reason the chronic, exhaustion happens. It's the reason for all the things that are happening there. That's what causes it, because the MTHFR mutation makes it so you don't make enough hormones in your body. So now we're talking serotonin, epinephrine, neoepinephrine, like all the chemicals in your brain that keep you from black depression, those aren't there. The chemicals, the hormones that like regulate the water in your body and stuff, there you don't make enough of those. So everything is tamped down in your body. And when I look back, the reason I can't eat wheat is because of the MTHFR. That is a autoimmune. So all this stuff is autoimmune, and the reason it's there is because of the MTHFR. At one point in my life, when my son was in first grade, I got so sick that I was so exhausted that I literally could not get out of bed. I couldn't even think. Like, I would lose track of my sentence in the middle of talking. That year, like, literally, I would walk to the bathroom and back and I'd have to go to sleep. It was a lost year, and it was extremely, and I was like, is this just going to be the rest of my life? Because I had gone to the doctor and I'm like, what's wrong with me? Because it happened for 2.5 months, and then it totally went away, and then it came back. And doctors. And he's taking all these tests, right? And he's like, oh, it would be awful if this was Epstein-Barr, but you're probably just are anemic. And I'm like, oh yeah. So I go back and he's like,
Nervous schoolgirl laugh.
yeah, exactly. He's like, ha 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 ha. So it's Epstein-Barr. And I was like, and
Oh,
Epstein-Barr is something that like everybody has. Everybody has it. It's one of those things you get when people kiss you when you're a baby or whatever. It just doesn't go active in any like anybody. I had it go active twice.
Big.
That was fantastic. And there was a question as to whether it would ever go in remission or not again. One of the things, the ways that impacts me now is that I have to be very, very careful how I schedule myself. Like, I fucked up today, man. I had like a writer's meeting this morning, and then I had to go get a blood test, then I had to go get gas, then I had to go do something else. And that, and, I'm like, all I want to do is my interview. And I'm like, I'm gonna get done with this interview and I'm gonna fucking go to bed. Not because I'm necessarily exhausted, but because I have maxed out my,
yeah.
allotment of, stuff for the day. But that's what it's like. Like, I cannot pack my days every day. That just isn't, that's how I got in this mess in the first place with the Epstein-Barr, because I had an editing job that I had done that I had to finish in a week. So I basically was awake for a week, and that's when all this stuff kicked in. And that was a time in my life when I was, and see, oh God, there's just so much to say about this. So like, like MTHFR goes hand in hand with a really sort of not helpful thread in my brain that says, if you're not doing something right now, you have time to do something. So I was on the board for my son's school. I was running the participation program. I was teaching adult ed classes. I was researching and teaching about attachment parenting. I can't even remember. I was doing all these things. And it was so much too much. I was so stressed all the time. And my body just finally was, and I had been doing that for years and years and years. And my body was finally like, it's funny because your body will say something and it'll whisper. It'll be like, you're doing too much.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, what? And you don't even hear it. You're like, yeah, blah, blah, I'm just gonna go on that. And it's like, you're doing too much, So maybe you catch a cold. And you're like, oh, I got a cold. That's right. Like, and then, but you don't stop. You keep going. And then like eventually your body's gonna scream at you, you're fucking doing too much. And it's gonna lay you out. And that's what happened to me. Like, I just didn't listen to my body until it had to scream to get my attention.
I heavily relate to that.
Do you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely with my SMA. It's not necessarily a symptom of SMA, more so a side effect. Uh, if I overexhaust myself, my body's ability to regulate internal temperature just decides to, check out the door,
Yeah.
Oh,
and I'll find myself just randomly getting cold and feeling achy.
Mm,
and I'll take my temperature and I'll have a fever, and I'll have to just literally lay back, pop some Advil, and have a blanket and heating pads on for at least an hour or two, however long it takes my body to go back to normal, reach what is it,
yeah.
stasis.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
relate to that.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, I have to go to bed. I'm just like, okay. And it can take me days to recover from something, like I went to this, like, I work with my mother-in-law. She has macular degeneration. So I do a lot of, which is like an eye condition that makes you sort of go blind in the middle of your vision. Um, and so I help her out a lot. And we went to this function, and it was like, 6 hours of this function. And I didn't realize it was going to be that long. And it took me like 3 days until I was like, I'm comfortable getting out of bed and really getting something done today. Like, it was intense. Um, so, so the chronic fatigue is that because the Epstein-Barr, it's still there, and I can feel it when I have those flare-ups. Like when I was talking with Jacob, I was actually genuinely frightened that it was coming back.
Mm,
I hadn't felt that exhausted and that brain foggy in a long time. And I was like, oh no. And that was after I'd done that 6 hour thing. And I was like, okay, I gotta like chill out. Um, so you have the MTHFR thing. So basically, Black depression my entire life, even though I presented like I'm presenting to you now outside of, the world, outside in the world. And then I would get home and it would just be like, I couldn't laugh. I couldn't, it was just, I wanted to read and go to bed. Um, and that was up until I was in my 40s, for God's sake.
wow.
It's funny because people are like, well, did you have suicidal ideation, which is where you think about killing yourself all the time? I'm like, of course, give me a break. We're old friends. Suicidal ideas, like, oh, you should kill yourself. Oh yeah, hi, like this is too hard. I can't take it. It's like, there you are again. So it's like, I know that pathway. I know that voice. I'm not going to kill. I think the second you have children, that's off the table for you.
Okay.
You don't get to do that anymore. So I
Cat,
always
cat.
was,
So
what? Oh,
There's a
yes,
cat.
yes.
that's the tinies. Are you over there? Are you gonna eat? Like, don't eat that. That's very silly. Um,
I like how we're talking about suicidal ideation and we're just like, oh,
Okay. Yeah.
totally. That's the proper response to any animal that shows up in frame, by the way.
Yes.
Instant dopamine. It's like kitty. Yeah.
And I just want to. It's the human squirrel.
Yeah.
But like, I don't take, I have this tattoo on my wrist that's of a semicolon, and that is doubly symbolic. One, it's symbolic of writing, because writing never ends, editing never ends. It's an ongoing project. But the other thing is it's a symbol of life. It's a symbol of, if you kill yourself, that's a period, that's the end. There's no more. But if you just add a comma to that, there could be something after. And that's something that's really important to hold in mind if you are at a point where you're like, it's not worth it. And I have it on my wrist so that when I go out, if somebody is in my tribe with that kind of thing, they probably know what that means. It's like it's a worldwide kind of thing. So I'm supporting them, even if that person and I never say a word. It's like,
Right.
I got you, you know. And again, all of this is from not having enough hormones. So I remember the first time, so the doctor was not helpful. Oh shit, you do have Epstein-Barr. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. This is gonna suck for you.
Wow. Is
I
it one of
wonder,
those things where the doctor kind of dismissed you and then realized, oh, never mind? It's like, because there's a lot of horror stories about that, especially with women,
oh
unfortunately.
yes. Oh,
Yeah.
oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. I won't even go down that road, but you know exactly what I'm talking about. And that's exactly what happened there.
okay.
So I went to a naturopath and I was like, and she was the one actually who clued me into, stop that. Sorry, cat moment. She's the one who clued me into MTHFR. She was like, that, because I was telling her all my stuff. She's like, that all sounds like MTHFR. And that's when I started researching and doing, because with MTHFR, you have to do a lot of your own research because maybe it's mainstream now. I don't know. The way I had to be gluten free, and now you can gluten free anything.
Yeah.
But you really have to do a lot of your own research because it's not like a mainstream kind of thing. Um, so she was the one who turned me on to the fact that that was what I probably had. And she was the first one who said, okay, you want to take this supplement, you want to take this supplement. I highly recommend that you go on you're happy the brain candy, which is the SSRI and the SNRI, and let's just get all that together, and we'll figure out what's next. So I'm like, okay. So I went to my doctor and I'm like, I want to be on an SSRI and SN, and he's like, okay, great. Well, that doctor was excellent. He was like, well, there are three different classes of that, and which one do you want? And here are all the side effects. And then so I started. Oh God damn! Like I feel like I want to cry. Like within a month of starting to take those pills, I was literally sitting in a cafe looking at the people there and going, is this how everybody feels? Is this like what other people, is this like a normal feeling? Like, is this how you feel if you're not gonna kill yourself every second? Like, I wanted to be like, take people and go, do you feel like really happy and good? Which of course would immediately kill any happy and good they felt. But like, I couldn't believe it. Like, I went into my doctor and I was just like, and I asked him, like, is this how everybody else, like, is this normal? And he was just like, I love this moment because he had this moment with a 70-year-old woman who hadn't figured out her stuff until she was in her 70s. And she was the same way. She's like, I cannot believe the difference in my life. And it is like night and day between before I knew about MTHFR and after, when I figured out what supplements and stuff I needed. Um, I It's the difference between being completely underwater all the time
Hmm.
and being able to sit on a chair on a beach and look at the water.
That's what.
Right.
And that's the difference between, oh my God, I just want to die. Like I can't go to school tomorrow. Like, I'm in elementary school. I can't do it. And oh, I'm feeling that way. And I hear that voice now. And I can, okay, so I'm stressed out. I'm triggered about something. So what is that? That ability to have that enough distance to see that mental process, that's the gift of the brain candy.
Hallelujah, brain candy.
Yeah, it's just like
Brain.
we're lost for words. It's kind of like, man,
Honestly,
yeah,
gamer jargon, brain candy W.
yeah, wow. And I think it is a very important message to get out there, especially for people that are feeling like this.
Oh my God,
That
please,
like
please get your stuff checked, because if
yeah,
it could just, and I'm not saying it's just, but it could just be a brain chemistry issue, you know?
yeah, yeah. Like I
I mean,
told
and I have complex PTSD and I have a bunch of other stuff. There's a bunch of other stuff mixed up in it, but that difference alone made it so I was able to deal with literally everything else.
yeah. Well, I was telling Dom this because like I failed like nursing stuff.
Or you took one anatomy class, bro.
Yeah, I
Calm down.
sucked at it, dude. I was terrible at it. But the professor was really good and he like did a great job at like taking a hammer and nailing it into us that humans are insanely complicated and it's all everything in your body, it's all chemical reactions.
Yep.
Like you're just this meat sack that's doing hormones and like millions of chemical reactions every second. Every time you like move your muscle like that, your cells are like exploding and like
Yep.
producing it. It's like everything is just that.
a
And
100%.
I'm like, oh gosh, you know,
And you're kind of like, and it's like, no, that's absolutely it. That's
and it's
Yeah.
absolutely it.
and it's kind of like a crazy, like a wild like concept, like wrap your brain around where it's there's a lot of like pseudo intellectual like medicine and like stuff like that and like a lot of like the health industry is very predacious where they
Oh,
where they
oh,
try where they try to like prescribe you like a magic cure or whatever but the
oh,
reality
you
is
mean like putting an ad on television saying like,
yeah, when the reality it's like how it's crazy. It's wild. I was telling
My son,
Dom, I went down that rabbit hole. I'm like, oh my gosh. And it's like, oh no.
my
It's
son
like,
has a joke that he would like walk into the doctor's office and go, I'm not a doctor, but I watch a lot of TV. And I think this drug, it's like,
yeah,
oh, what? Advertising at its finest. But the thing is that it is as simple as that. It is as simple as we are a chemical machine.
yeah,
When the chemicals are out of balance, the machine doesn't work.
yeah. Oh gosh. And
So
then
so we've kind of talked about the more tangible aspects of living with the conditions that you live with. And this was a focus of the program that Jacob did uh, on you for pushing limits, and that is the fact that these are all seemingly invisible disabilities that you live with. So my question after knowing all this is, and you kind of touched on it earlier, but when you go through resurgences of Epstein-Barr, when you were dealing with the MTHFR, the way that made you feel, like how do you navigate social situations where, people are just unaware of
Mm-hmm.
everything going on?
Mm-hmm.
for
Yeah.
example, the doctor that dismissed your case,
Yeah,
I
you
didn't go
know,
back to
it's
him. I did
like
not.
hanging out in the library instead of,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, totally. I think there are two separate issues here. One is being your own, and I'll elaborate on this. One is being your own self-advocate in terms of like what you're going to do. But the second one, and the more insidious one, is what it means to be a woman in this culture.
Mm.
Because we are taught to please everybody else, to make sure that everybody else is okay, to take up all the slack, to do the work that needs to be done, all that stuff. That is going to be a killer if you have MTHFR and chronic fatigue. It is not going to work. That's how I constantly end up doing too many things. So when you finally reach a point where you're like, okay, I had to sit down, especially after, during that year for sure. I mean, it was obvious that I couldn't do anything. I mean, anybody who came over was like, holy shit. And I'm like, yes. Um, so it's more visible then. But afterwards, like I was like, okay, I need to be able to say no.
Yeah.
And that's a really easy thing to say.
I
And
feel that.
it's a very difficult thing to do. So for example, I'm part of a writing group, which is like the best writing group I've ever been a part of in my entire life. I thank God every day that yay, these women, we're all women and we're all over the world. And they love to get together and write. And like, we're doing a huddle and you're going and I don't do a lot of that stuff. Like we meet twice a week already, and that's kind of enough for me. Like I can't give that much of myself, because doing a writing meeting, I'm a professional editor and a professional developmental editor and a professional writer. So when I'm working with somebody on a scene, like I'm doing a lot of mental work. And so I can't do that all the time. So the way you have to deal with this, look at me bringing it back to the subject. The way you have to deal with this is you really have to feel what your body is doing. Is it starting to whisper something? Did you miss something and now it's starting to talk out loud? And it's a constantly moving target, because some things will exhaust you more and then you'll do the same thing and it won't, because you're in a different state of health or you've eaten differently. Or you had wine the night before.
Yeah.
um, so learning to be inward and learning to say, no, I can't do that. I think is some of the most difficult work I've done in terms of the invisibility of my stuff, my disabilities, because the judgment that comes back, what do you mean you can't do this? Like, here's a perfect example. And I'm my own freaking worst enemy sometimes. Like, we went to my mother-in-law's very involved with service clubs. So they were doing a fundraising dinner. So we got to the fundraising dinner early, and that was when I was going through that relapse when I had talked to Jacob. And I told her, I'm like, I'm not going to be able to do anything to help. She's like, no, just sit down, because she knew what I had been through. So I just sat down, and here I am, compared to the other people in the room, a young person, and they're all working their butts off, and I'm sitting in a chair reading on my phone. And I felt so guilty and so ashamed. And it took everything I had not to just get up and do something. So, and I'm like, they all think I'm an idiot. They all think I'm rude. Like they're probably going, you spin out. You know how you spin out.
Yeah.
And because of the brain candy and the space I have from that particular, black hole, I could see it. I was like, all right, you feel this way. Some people may be feeling that way. Who knows? Who cares? Who cares what they think? You know what you need to do for yourself. So, you had these sort of conflicting voices in your head, these two streams that are going along. And, like tonight, or sorry, not tonight. God, when was it? It was this week. What day is it? God.
I forget too.
Friday,
Friday,
I
yeah.
think. Yeah, the 6th, I
Friday.
believe.
I was right. It's Friday. I was supposed to have dinner with somebody like earlier this week, I think Tuesday night. And I just called and I was like, look, I can't, And fortunately, she knows about my stuff. And she's really funny because she has all this, like, she and I always laugh about like overextending ourselves socially, meaning we did one thing during the week. So
I mean, it's very relatable, especially with my friends and the people I talk to. It's a lot more common than like people. It's like, yeah, I went out today.
Yeah, right.
It's like,
Don't call me for 3 days. Right? Totally. I think there are so many more introverts in this world than there are extroverts, but this world is built for extroverts.
Yeah.
And we're made to feel ashamed for not being extroverted. There's a book called Quiet, which I recommend that everybody read. That was actually really instrumental in me learning how to say no, because it talks about being introverted versus being extroverted, but it also talks about how do you cope in a world that always constantly asks too much from you. And I was able to translate. I'm like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so social things are a day-to-day decision. Like I can say, oh yeah, I want to go to that, and then the day of I'm like,
yeah,
do that. And people get upset sometimes, and I'm okay with that.
So, I mean, thank you for sharing, because I feel like both you and I, we've been in the situation. Well, I know I have. It's very relatable.
Yeah.
I know that it's like this thing where I like hanging out with people, but it's always I'm saying no, but in like the most like windy way possible.
Yeah.
Where it's gonna, well, something might come up, it's just like, and it's like I find it very relatable. It's not that I like you, and
Right.
I'm doing my best to like not offend them.
Well,
this is like,
that's the thing. That's the thing. There's
yeah,
exactly, because there's like this line. There's a different. I'm not going to sit there and say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to come to dinner because I'm not only exhausted, but I'm completely depleted emotionally, and I don't have or am I going to, because I have this thing called MTHFR, and it manifests as chronic depression,
if you got to explain that every time you get invited to dinner.
I was talking to someone today that was kind of doing that with me, and I told him, bro, just be honest. Yeah, I'm not gonna get butthurt. I prefer it like, I'm a hypocrite because I prefer it when people just tell me like, yeah, I got this. I feel like shit. I'm like, all right, next time then.
Yeah.
It's just like straight, straight to the point.
I have this great friend, and she and I we see each other like once a month. We're like, this is awesome, this is perfect, and like we see each other once a month, and then like when that day comes, she and I a lot of times we're like reschedule, and we're just like, yeah, great, next Friday. Like both of us know we're just like, yeah, fuck that, man. Like it's not happening today. Excellent, got it. But like the world expects you. Like, well, that's the other thing. You committed. You said you would do this.
Yeah.
So, and that's still somewhat challenging, because I'll be like, I said I could do this. That means I have to do it. And that's a lie. That's a lie. That's a lie.
Oh yeah. Let's see. This is why I love writers, man. Straight to the point, very honest. It's a perspective that like it's reassuring, because it's like I'm not crazy.
No, you're not.
You know what I mean? Or it's and like a hypocrite in the sense where I want people to be honest and direct with me, But it's just like, oh, well, like you can't hang out this week. I'm like, what?
Right.
It's like,
But see,
That's
that's the
like,
problem is there's the spectrum between, and here's why I can't hang out. I'm gonna talk to you for 30 minutes about all my ailments. And the other
yeah,
side where it's like, no, I'm not going. And
yeah.
you're like, and I don't feel like the reason I don't think that saying just like, no, I'm not doing that. The reason I don't feel like that is an appropriate response to anything unless somebody's being a total asshole is because that's not respecting the humanity in the person that you're talking to.
Hmm.
yeah, which is I'm walking on
Nobody, and I used
eggshells to say no.
yeah, I used to teach high school English, and I would tell my students constantly, nobody has the right to cause suffering for anyone else because we are all already suffering as much as we can handle. So if I'm rude to somebody because I don't want to do something, I'm putting my decision off and making them pay for it. So how do you find the fine line between, you know, I committed to doing this, I can't do it. How do I take responsibility for my own decision and my own suffering so that they're not paying for it? Oh, there's a little thumbs
I
up.
didn't do
Oh,
anything.
maybe it was me. I don't know, but I just had my hand chills.
So, and
Huh.
that involves a lot of skill. I have to do it a lot because I'm too tired or I'm maxed out emotionally, which is also being too tired. Everything that I am boils down to being too tired. It's really difficult to deal with my egoic programming, which is pretty toxic, when I'm exhausted. I can't do it. It's
And
it's
I think it's very important to highlight this stuff because I know for sure you feel this way, Dom,
Mhm.
even with a physical disability.
Yeah,
But like one could argue it's just like, oh well, obviously he's disabled, so like he gets the pass. It's like, oh, he can't make the thing. It's like
right.
whatever. So it's like this thing where, but like going back to like what you said, like being a woman in the society is pretty crazy because
mm,
my mom has Crohn's disease, and then sometimes like when I like encounter like young men out in the wild, like some of the things they say kind of it hurts a lot, where it's just like it's not her fault, and it's just like and like there's this really high expectation on women to do a lot of stuff, but then we criticize them when they can't meet this like weird social minimum that I guess this
yeah. If a,
patriarchal society has set up. Like what
if a
is the
man
minimum?
says,
Like
"Oh, I changed my mind, I can't do it," they're like, "Oh, all right, next time." If a woman does that, we're unreliable.
it's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
women, am I right? It's like people
Yep,
like do that, and I'm like, oh, what do
exactly.
you mean? I mean, I like, and I find it kind of like painful because it's like, oh, that's a woman thing. Well, I do that too. So it's like, oh wait,
Oopsies.
well,
Yeah,
it's just like
I wouldn't necessarily genderize it. I think that I think
I
what
wouldn't either because it's
yeah,
just
I
a
think
human thing.
yeah, it's a human thing. Like I
Yeah,
think there are men that get stuck in that role as well. Like it happens. It's a traditional female role in our culture, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't happen to men too. You
Yeah.
know. Um,
Right.
so that's part of saying no is like, how do I take the weight of my own decision and not lay it on this person in front of me? How do I be
yeah.
sensible about this? How do I be an actual adult? I'm not an adult. All the adulting is like, faking. I'm faking till I make it. But like that's, it's like,
I'm like I'm an adult for like an hour of the day when I have to like call people or like do insurance shenanigans or do whatever.
Yeah.
It's just like look at my bank statements, whatever. Then after that, like, okay,
yeah,
right?
done.
Yeah,
Let's make cookies. Let's not do anything and enjoy it,
Watch cartoons.
yeah. It's like, oh gosh,
Yeah,
Oh,
so it's really like I think it's important. That's a skill. And again, like I was talking about the craft of writing, there's the craft of having an invisible disability. And there's nobody that can teach you that. There ain't a
yeah.
book.
See, I
There's
wanted I wanted to piggyback off of what you had mentioned a
yeah,
few minutes ago. You had said something along the lines of people will see me, and I have a very visible disability, obviously. Like you see me and you're like, oh, that dude's messed up.
that
And
wasn't my first thought, but
that's my first thought. No. Uh, it's such a double standard, right? Where quote unquote I can get a pass for
right,
canceling on stuff like you were saying,
yeah,
but then what you're explaining, it's like gender aside, you don't get a pass either. Like, and that sucks.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, I don't. And it's like if I am working on like when oh God, I had this autobiography project that I did, a ghostwriting project I did. And when I put the plan into the future, like how long is this going to take me? I deliberately, I mean, that was a project that was legit going to take a year or more. But when I like said, like proposed the project, like here's how long it's gonna take, and I said it's probably gonna take 2 years because I knew that there were times when I just would not be able to do anything. And I could not say, like, if I work 5 days a week, then it's gonna take this long. Like the math of things you're gonna get done, there is no math for it.
The math ain't mathin'.
Yeah, that's
Exactly. The
yeah,
math is mathless.
yeah.
You can't do it that way. You cannot do it that way. You can't say, like, it's going to take me exactly 8 hours to do this. Well, it probably isn't. And maybe it will, and you'll luck out. But
I used to fall into that trap, and now I just like kind of do it, and then like once it's done, I'm like, oh, okay, it took that long. All right,
right? Well,
yeah,
I find if you overextend the deadline and then you come in under it, that's a win.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I told Dominic, I'm like, sometimes I sit down and write like multiple pages. It's like, oh, I did that relatively quickly. Okay, pretty good. Like pat on the back, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, good
It's
for
like,
me. Today was a good day. Man,
yeah.
all days are going to be good. Like there are days when I sit down to write and I'm just like, I need some tea and now I need to leave the house.
That's me when I do homework. You know that?
Uriel,
Yeah,
Uriel, insert coffee instead of tea.
yeah,
Exactly. Whatever it
Americano.
is.
yeah, or something. Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
gosh.
So that's it's complicated to have a disability like this. And the other thing is that people don't necessarily believe you, even if you tell them what's going on.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, it's because there's just some like ignorant or just like I don't even know how to describe like I'll say ignorant people that just even when you tell them the facts and you explain it to them, they don't change. And it's like, oh, and that person's just lazy.
Oh
You know,
my God. A friend of
like
mine's husband doesn't believe that I can't eat gluten.
I've heard this story. This is on the radio.
oh,
Oh
really?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Banger.
he'll do things like, well, I made a pie, you can just scoop out the center. And I'm like,
Dude, wow.
that's
Okay.
not how this works.
Oh
If I
God.
even barely touch it, I can like touch a piece of bread and lick my finger and I will be out. My digestive system will be off for 2 weeks.
It's
At least.
like
So I had to stop going over to their house for dinner because I was terrified that he was going to put gluten in my food to prove his point.
see, I don't I can't hang out with
I'm
people like
raising two
that.
middle fingers. I'm raising two middle fingers.
I
Sorry,
don't
go ahead.
I don't understand people that operate like that.
Yeah.
They always like scare the shit out of me. It's
Right.
like you can exist just being wrong. It's like these are the facts. You don't have to like eat the center of it. Is that a threat? Like
Right?
yeah, like, what do you mean by
Like if
that?
I don't, I'm a wimp or something. Like, yeah. So it's just like, oh my God. So and chronic fatigue too. Here's another line. A lot of people use chronic fatigue to be dramatic. And there's a difference between taking responsibility for your disability and glamorizing or like using it to take advantage. I can't do that. I have Epstein-Barr. I have chronic.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of ego involved with disability. I'm sure you understand this. Like people are like, I have this disability, and it becomes their life. It becomes sort of who they are as
Yeah.
something that they
Mhm.
have, and so everything in
They
their life,
milk it.
yeah, they milk it exactly.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the words I usually use to describe this, and of course they're,
And
but
then me, I'm like, oh yeah, they're milking it like a cow.
yeah, exactly. As opposed to just be like, okay, I can't do that right now. Because so if I'm having a moment, with my chronic fatigue, I can just say to somebody, yeah, I'm really super tired today. I can't do it. Or I can be like, I have this condition and it just ruins my life. And you don't understand. And I can't, like
Me when I'm trying to skip the lines at Disneyland.
Well, that's appropriate use of disability.
Yeah, I
It's
don't
like
see what's wrong with that.
mistaken.
I'm
I
all
don't
for
see
it.
what's wrong with that.
I'll get out of your way.
Yeah.
So, fuck is the word? It'll come to me, maybe or not. Anyway,
Extorting?
uh, uh,
Ending.
it's almost I think it begins with an E. Anyway, it'll come to me or not. But it's milking it versus worth really living with it.
Yeah. I think that sometimes we have this discussion. There's a lot of well, you can never truly know. And I think that's where some of the bitterness comes from, where there's social media, things like TikTok, whatever, have taken kind of like the forefront of like social media. And there's a lot of people like acting pays. And you can't, and like I have this discussion with Dominic where you can't really, you have to, it's like, what's the benefit of the doubt?
Give people the benefit of the
Yeah,
doubt.
give people the benefit of the doubt where it's just like, because I'm all in support of like documenting, like expressing and telling people how you feel and how these conditions work. But then at the same time, some people,
Indulge it.
yeah, indulge
That's the
it.
word.
Indulge.
That's the word.
Yeah.
They indulge it. They don't live with it. And there's a huge difference between those two things.
Yeah. And then like people indulge on the short form media, the videos or whatever. And then some people, given their background, the way they were raised, politics or whatnot, they'll be, oh, they're clearly lying. It's just like because those conditions are invisible.
Yep.
And
Yep.
then that spreads because social media spreads like wildfire. And then I'm just gonna say it. A lot of the opinions that I hear in real life and online aren't original opinions. They just
Yeah.
people just decided to like read some of them. Like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, they're lazy.
I'm
Just
gonna say
retweeting,
that. That
reposting.
sounds right. Yeah, it's
Yeah, you know, it's like,
it would be such a better world if people did no research and just talked about everything like they knew it.
oh God. That scares me because I feel like we're nearing that. It's like I'm scared.
You're not. You're not because the three of us have lived with something and we've done the work to understand what's going on, and we've done the work to understand what works and what doesn't. I feel like the people who indulge disabilities are the people who haven't done that work and who feel like they're, it's their identity, it's who they are, it's how they get love and sympathy and all of that.
Yeah.
God
Right.
love them. They must be obviously suffering and what have you. But after a while, that becomes a choice.
Yeah, and then like whenever Dominic and I talk about this, it's like that it's thing it's like does it annoy Dominic or I sometimes? Yeah, to some extent. But you could argue that a lot of people just document their lives online, and I try my best to be not as hateful or like empathetic, where it's like even if they are indulging it,
Yes,
this is
there's some
kind of like their first steps into, coming to terms with themselves.
100%. You
You know
there's
what
a
I mean?
there's a curve. Like
Yeah,
when
I
I
feel
found out
like
about the MTHFR,
everybody
like,
does
oh,
that, like to
yeah,
some extent. Yeah.
yes. And they're always excited to document right at the beginning. Oh, that's just amazing. And you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
disability.
My hormones don't work. We yeah, yeah.
But I think that one of the things that's missing in those platforms is the more mature, aged view of that, of people who've
Yeah.
been working with it for a long time and who have, like I said, who have done the work. Like it's not just physical work; it's psychological work. It's looking at your own psychological habits. Like how has my personal disability influenced the habits that I've formed psychologically? Because it has, the depression is real and it's a habit, you know, um, not wanting to be involved in social situations is real and it's a habit. So you have to really, if you do the work, you're constantly trying to find the difference between the authentic expression of what's happening and the inauthentic, the
Mm.
indulgent expression of what's happening. And the people who have done that work, I think, are lacking on the social media sites and stuff like that. And you know why? because it doesn't get clicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, people want the dramatic stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
You know.
It's like my Instagram is just random, very like far and few between posts about the podcast because it's
Yeah.
like stuff I care about.
I was curious to how does your invisible disability affect your writing process, or maybe the way you develop characters? Because I was telling Dom where in or like writing can be like spontaneous and come from a lot of things, but like the way the author or the writer navigates life, the things they see, the things they experience, it all kind of subconsciously bleeds
Oh,
into the
hell
writing.
yes.
And I'd argue that's the footprint of like every writer because their experiences are different, this is that, and like the words they choose and the emotions they decide to like lean on is going to vary between
Yep.
artist or writer.
Yeah.
How do
There's
you
a saying that every writer has a core story, and that core story is based on their own emotional experience of life, and it doesn't change. You just tell the same story over and over again in different forms. I'm a real believer that that core story can shift if you're doing the work, if you're doing the psychological work to understand what's going on. But I totally agree with what you were saying. It is absolutely every story is autobiographical. So to some extent. So I because I deal with when the tiredness comes on, like if I've done too much in a day and I'm tired and I was looking forward to writing something, my brain doesn't fire. So like I said, I'll forget sentences halfway through talking, but and I just can't hold things in my brain. I can't write at that moment because my writing, because I plan it out and I'm like, have all these different threads that I'm pulling through and all that. I can't just sit and write a bunch of bullshit because I'm going to have to rewrite the whole thing. And there's this thing, like, you can't edit until there are words on the page. Yes, totally, totally, totally. But there's a difference between getting words on the page and completely wasting your time, So,
Yeah.
so it really, it impacts me that way. It also impacts me, like if I have an editing job, I'm going out into the future. It should take somebody this long. Well, it's going to take me this long. And just like on a day-to-day basis, the MTHFR lack of hormones that I went through for most of my life and the psychological patterns and habits that were formed from that are incredibly difficult to work with at the best of times and impossible to work with if I'm tired or too hungry or whatever. Like sleep is super important to me. So and that's why I say like MTHFR motherfucker is the umbrella under which everything else lives, because that's the original reason for everything. So it really impacts my artistic life in that one of the things that happens when I write a book is that I'll have like 50 threads that are going through the book, right? Like this person is having these 4 different tracks, arcs, and this person's having these 4 different arcs, and these people are impacting this way. And okay, now we're going to have this go. I have to remember this thread. It's very, very complex. And you get in a rhythm. Like if you're writing a lot, it's like those threads are right there to pick up.
yeah.
But if you have to stop for a little while, of those 50 threads, I can maybe, depending on how long it's been, I can maybe pick up 40. And if it's been longer than that, maybe 15, and then how do are you just going to reread everything, which I have had to do, so it impacts my ability to have the complexity of writing that I want.
Let's see.
Yeah. And that's tough for me because this is my art. This is how I express. Like all my writing is about, hey man, you're in my tribe. You're not alone. I got you. It's a lot about mental health. It's I write romantic comedy, feminist romantic comedy. So you wouldn't necessarily think, but it's all about mental health. It is all about working with your demons. It's all about please don't do this alone.
Yeah. It's
Oh,
important. Yeah.
right. That's see. Yeah. See, I'm happy I asked that because it's like, yeah, it varies between like author and author, artist, and it's like It's like really because you can always because it's very reflective and you can always tell more or less where that author is mentally when they're
Yes.
reading said story.
Yeah.
Yep. One of my advantages is that I've been doing psychological work for over a decade. So I know a lot about my own, I know a lot about how psychology works. I know a lot about how trauma works. I know a lot about how those two things conjoin physically to manifest physically. I know a lot about the sort of the inner workings of psychology and physicality. So when I'm writing my books, I can write a character who's physically manifesting trauma and show people this. If this is happening to you, you have trauma in your body somewhere. Like this is what it looks
Yeah.
like. This is what it feels like. And that can make it tough to write because even though I'm writing romantic comedy, if I'm doing a moment where somebody's having a trauma issue, I have to feel it. You
Yeah.
know, where am I feeling it right now? What is it feeling like? Why is it feeling that way? What's triggering it? You don't get to just glide through if you're writing about anything that's, real and authentic. And again, like if I'm too tired or all that stuff is going on, I'm not going to get anywhere near the emotional stuff because I won't be able to handle it. I'll just get swamped, you know.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult tightrope to walk to walk, and it changes all the time. There's not like I got it. Like,
It's I was able to convince you to read it, but it's just like the most like stereotypical like bro like series.
uh,
Like Berserk.
Berserk.
You could
Yeah.
clearly tell the author was not in a great place when he wrote that.
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
like that's a Japanese manga series and it's
Oh,
I don't know how to I don't I would say I probably wouldn't I'd recommend it, not recommend. I don't know how would you?
I mean, I
It's
recommend it.
yeah, it's
It's an adult manga. Um,
yeah.
it's
what's
really
it called?
good. It's called Berserk.
Yeah.
Essentially about
It's there's a lot of themes
there's
going
a
on,
lot
man.
going on. It's
It's
like medieval time period roughly, I would say, right?
yeah.
Think like yeah, medieval
But
times.
the reason why I bring that up because it's probably like the first time in like my young male adult life where I realized, oh, I read something. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. It's just the dude killing stuff. This is awesome. Heavy metal, yeah. Sex, gore, yeah. This is awesome. But then I
Mhm.
read it a second time. I'm like, oh no, this character is
There's like
deeply
a
traumatized.
lot
Like,
going on.
oh, okay. It's like, and like,
Yeah.
it's one of those
You're
things
like,
where
I missed this completely the first. That's why it's great to reread your books and to reread them every 5 years because you're gonna get something different out of them every time you read them.
yeah.
Okay, I wrote that name down. I'm definitely interested in
Heck
that.
yeah.
But when I recommend stuff, I always give it, which is exactly what you just did. I always give a caveat. I'm like, this is some intense shit, and you may not, feel free to put it down.
But like what you're describing is like kind of like a little self-fulfilling. It's kind of what I wanted to hear. Because like yeah, because I don't want to be crazy. Because it's
Not
like
crazy.
sometimes I nerd out about this stuff like on my own because I'm always overthinking. I'm like, oh, how do author like what are they thinking? And then
Are you
like
really
you
thinking that, or am I just reading into it? Yeah.
yeah, and then and I
Yeah.
think it's really cool that like because I was particularly curious or interested because like people with that depression, that invisible thing, it's like
Mhm.
there's like these things where people say like, well, trauma produces great art. But
Yeah.
that's kind of like a
Oh,
like see, but that's what some people say. I don't
that's
fully
okay. Let me just
agree.
clarify. Let me clarify why I'm rolling my eyes so hard.
Yeah.
Trauma doesn't create great art. Understanding trauma creates great art.
See?
Because if you are just writing trauma porn,
Hmm.
you're not doing anybody any good.
Yeah.
You're not helping. You're leaving them in a darker place than they were before. And to
Right.
me, that's a disservice as an artist.
Mm.
So there is like any like famous person autobiography, they're all ghostwritten, that you read is trauma porn. And then this horrible thing happened. Then I went on, I was into drugs and it was horrible and awful. And I'm just like, and that's
Yeah.
not clean. Well, that's the most important, interesting part, but you're not saying anything
Right.
about that because you haven't learned anything because you haven't done the work. I know I say this a
Yeah.
lot. doing the work to me is really important.
So, okay, oh, what's that?
No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, because you're a ghostwriter yourself as well, and have you experienced that firsthand as a ghostwriter?
Respectfully, of course, maybe
No, it's
depending on
fine.
who you
I
worked
have.
with.
I have.
Like
In fact, the book that I ghost wrote was with an 87-year-old man, and he just wanted to write about his life, and I recontextualized psychologically so many of the experiences he had had. I couldn't help it. I just felt it was necessary. He's talking about this thing that happened with his dad, but it was fine. It was fine, and I would just go, "That's not fine. That's abusive," and he'd go, like, he's ever said that, and just helped him trace a lot of the ways he is now to what had happened in his life. And
yeah.
he was super reflective, and he'd go, "Oh, I never thought about it like that," and he would dig into that and really think about it. So the way I wrote that book was in a way that if you know about psychology, you're going to read the early parts of his life and you're going to understand exactly why he is the way he is now.
Let's see. That's the cool stuff.
Yeah.
See, yeah, that's the cool stuff. Yeah,
And
it's just
I
like,
think that does service. If you're reading that book, it's a service. But if you're just recording somebody's psychology with no introspection, with no nothing, with no then that's boring.
yeah, and it's like,
Indulgent. It's indulgent.
yeah, indulgent, and also it's kind of maybe not necessarily like
Story?
not necessarily repetitive, but kind of like, well, we'll get to the point. Are you going to change?
Right.
Like that, you kind of get like fed up with the person
Yeah.
after like a set amount of time, or it's
3/4 of the book. But that's the thing too, is that they're changed. Like, I found Jesus. Whatever. You can find Jesus. It's totally fine. But that's replacing one psychological habit with another. And don't come at me. Like, that's
yeah, no, yeah, no.
but that's not giving anybody hope. Because if you're telling somebody go to church and that's going to save you, that's not.
Yeah.
Well, it still has you still have those underlining issues that you're still kind of burying, you know.
Exactly. You've traded one opiate, which is trauma porn, for another, which is religion porn, I guess. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But and that the trick is to figure out what layer of porn you're on and go underneath that.
Yeah.
Stop
Okay.
watching porn.
Exactly. Totally.
Which, I mean, excellent. Which takes us to like, what's it like being a writing coach?
Admin coach. Yeah.
Or like, oh,
I shouldn't put my head in my hands. It's fantastic and I love it. And a professional writer will, okay, so if you're working with a professional, and I'm a professional writer and they're a professional writer and I'm a professional editor and whatever, then you're not going to talk about what works, because that's not what you need to talk about. So you're just going to say, okay, like in this scene, this thread dropped, and this isn't the right physical order for somebody who's experiencing this amount of shock, and think about maybe this person, what's the motivation? You're going to talk about what isn't working.
right.
When you're working with somebody who's not a professional writer, and professional does not mean published. Professional means I want to produce the best piece of art that I can. When you're not a professional writer, you are emotionally involved in your work to the point that you think it's perfect and you shouldn't have to change a thing. And I will only butt heads with somebody for so long about that before I go, oh, great. Okay, no, that sounds like a great idea.
All right. Yeah, okay.
Because I'm not going to waste my energy. I have fought with some authors, and I've reached a point where it's not fucking worth it. And if you're working with a professional writer and you're able to have a conversation back and forth together, it's incredible where you can get. Nobody writes in isolation. Nobody writes in isolation, because you're always bringing something to somebody else and saying, like my writing group, what doesn't work? And the scene that I had turned in today, I picked the wrong character to be the protagonist, which is sort of a very technical thing, but it's like, oh, it actually needs to come from this perspective, not that one. So basically, you can take what they have and build on it and create incredible insights that the writer can then take back and implement into the work, as opposed to just butting heads about whether or not some scene needs to happen. So
Right.
it's amazingly rewarding, and it's very, very difficult. And I have like stopped working with some people sometimes. I'm like,
Mm.
Yeah.
and I'm not gonna work with you anymore, you know. But I absolutely love it. It is like one of my favorite things is to talk about writing and craft and how do you do all this. And like I was teaching this writing group a particular way of thinking about creating character arcs and plot arcs. And they're just like, you know, and I'm like, and then if you do this, you know, like, and it was like, I could talk about it for hours. So I absolutely love it. And it can be very challenging depending on what kind of person you're working with.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Because
I think the worst thing isn't even the people who are mad about their work. It's the worst thing is people who haven't studied craft at all.
Oh, and they think they know better.
trying to like argue with you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's when I just start going, okay, that's great. No, if you want
Yeah.
just, it's your book, you know, I'm just like,
Yeah, I can see that. And I think it's like it's frustrating when people are like that, but they're not like willing to like compromise or change or like listen and be like, I want it done this particular way. But
yeah.
if you want it done that particular way and you're just ignoring what the coach is saying, like then why are you here?
Yeah.
You know, it's like okay.
Yeah, and the other thing that drives me crazy is when people don't take notes. Like, I'm gonna remember. I'm like, you're not, and I'm gonna stop talking.
No, you're never
I'm
gonna
not gonna say
remember.
all this shit and just have you be
Yeah.
like, yes, I got it. I'm like, you don't. Um, yeah, so writing is very interesting in the sense that, and I think painting and stuff is might be like this too, in that people think they can just do it. You know, I'm just gonna write a book. I cannot tell you how many times I've heard that. I always go, excellent. And they're like, will you edit it? I'm like 100% because they're never gonna write that book.
Yeah.
That's me, you and me, buddy. Guilty.
I've started and stopped so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
It's
Guilty.
hard. People sit down and they're like, this is really fucking hard. I'm like, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And like
Super
you don't even know the roadmap, you know, like if you
No.
I just, you know, it's one of those arts where people think they can just drive from here to Minnesota with no roadmap.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's insane, you know? So
So sounds like we got a lot of advice for people that want to be writers.
yeah. Yeah. Aspiring.
Yeah. What
read
advice?
K.M. Weiland. Read
Right.
K.M. Sorry, go ahead.
Read what now?
There's an author named K.M. Weiland. I've read literally hundreds of craft books, and she has one of the most succinct descriptions of craft that I've ever seen. She has like a 5-book series, and I'm like, read that, and then talk to people who know about it.
K.M. Weiland.
Yeah.
K.M. Weiland. Weiland. Yep. Sorry, go ahead. So get
More fireworks. We really need a ring light or something. Like we're
that sounds
4:45 and we're in the dark.
Oh
Yeah.
my, I know, right? Talk about seasonal depression. Jesus Christ.
For real. So, yeah, any specific advice you can give to those listening with invisible disabilities, how they can navigate their disabilities or, situations that you have found yourself in, anything
Yes.
similar like that?
Yes. I think I said this on Jacob's podcast. Yeah, I can't remember. The two biggest things are to learn to listen to your body.
Right.
And to catch it earlier and earlier before it starts screaming. And it's going to be a lot of work, but you have to learn how to say no.
Right.
You have to learn to advocate for yourself. That doesn't mean you have to tell everybody what's wrong with you or not wrong, but what you're dealing with and whatever. It just means that you need to be able to give yourself a break when you need it without worrying what anybody else thinks about it.
Yeah.
So those, I think, are the two most important things. Really listening to your body is difficult. Because honestly, most of us don't live in our bodies. Most of us live up here.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah.
That's why when you're writing, you can sit there for 8 hours and not move because you're not in your body.
Yeah.
You don't know what the hell's going on down there.
I like that. We circled back.
Look at that.
know,
perfect.
intentional.
Very.
Right.
Almost
Yeah.
like it was written out.
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Oh.
Ooh.
We planned accordingly, of course.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you, Theresa. You're awesome.
Yay.
How can people find you? We have your website as a plug here, teresarogers.art.
Yep. That's how
Where,
you can reach me. And there's something there saying like either contact me or something. If you want to write to me, just fill out that form and it'll come straight to me.
Oh yeah, there's a contact information,
I
like
even
fill out
tested
thing on
it.
your
It
website.
works.
And it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Bonus.
Yeah.
We'll make sure to link it on the description of the podcast episode and on socials and stuff, and people should be able to find you no problem.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you
Yeah.
so much, you guys.
Thank
You
you.
guys are freaking amazing. This has been
Oh.
like so much fun.
That was so
Like,
chill.
It's I can't even tell you, like finding some people to have good conversations with is very difficult, and y'all rank right up there.
The girls that get it, get it. What can I say?
It's a wild place.
Damn straight.
Yeah.
All right, well, with that
Seriously,
being
thank you so much.
said,
Thank you
thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you. If you liked what we had to say today, please leave us that rating, perhaps a nice little review on Apple Podcasts. Be sure to share with your friends and family. If you're not already, be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube at The Disability Myth. Also, at the time of recording this episode, I am almost done building our website. So hopefully, fingers crossed, by the time you hear or see this video / podcast, you can click a link to go to our website.
Cool.
So that would be great. Keep an eye out for that. Either thedisabilitymyth.com
Gosh.
or .net or whatever I'm lucky enough to get. And that's my spiel. So with that being said, peace and love. And may the force be with you.